We are seeing in recent decades a secularization of America that I don't think is a good thing. But we are seeing both among Catholics and among evangelical Protestants a decline of church membership, a decline of church attendance, and also some increase in the number of people who have, you may say, rejected Christianity altogether. In fact, they declare themselves to be skeptics, so they declare themselves to be atheists. That number is still relatively small, but the number of the, as they say, unchurched, the people who do not go, and certainly do not go regularly. They may go once a year on Easter or on Christmas, but the people who go to church is down. It's down, as I say, in Catholicism, and it's down in evangelicalism. It's even going down in the so-called Bible Belt. Now, the secularization of the Catholics, particularly the Catholics in the American Northeast, has fortified liberal politics, because those were Catholics who were very kind of group-oriented, community-oriented, and so when they lose their faith, in a sense you could say they lose their pro-life beliefs, but they don't lose their collectivism. They still devoted to the state, and so what you now have are these radical leftists, and the moralizing energy that maybe previously was accommodated within the church is now driven to expanding abortion access, is driven to promoting gay marriage and gay rights and trans rights. So we've seen a kind of leftism in the American Northeast as a consequence of secularization. So a group of scholars have looked at secularization in the Bible Belt, and we have seen in the Bible Belt evangelicals becoming less evangelical. They don't attend church as often, and some of them don't even really call themselves committed evangelicals anymore. But the surprising finding on the part of these, or perhaps surprising finding on the part of these scholars, is that although these evangelicals have become less evangelical, they have not become less Republican. They have not become less conservative. Let's look at some of these findings as they're summarized in an article in Christianity Today. They say, first, there's a fair number of them. So in other words, we're talking about 30% of people in the Bible Belt. That's a significant percentage. By the way, if those people were becoming leftists or becoming Democrats, this would begin to cause a problem for the Republican hold on the South. But it turns out that's not happening. They're not Democrats. In fact, the secular Protestants, if you want to call them that, voted for Trump over Hillary by more than 2-1. They're deeply committed to colorblind conservatism. They're deeply committed to the idea of law and order. They oppose preferential hiring for blacks or other minorities. They think that hiring should be done based on merit. 65% they have, quote, hardly any confidence in the press. Very good. They do have confidence in the military. 62% oppose the legalization of elective abortion. This is markedly greater than the American population as a whole. And so what you're seeing here is that in the South and in the Bible Belt, even if as people become less religious, they don't, for example, give up their pro-life beliefs. In fact, interestingly, 89% of these people who are not going to church or going to church very rarely still say the Bible is the inspired word of God. And about a third of them say that the Bible is literally true. It can be taken as true word for word. So I think what's interesting here is that you have a phenomenon, although it's sometimes described as secularism, it's not secularism in the European sense. And it's not even that these are people who are somehow abandoning Christianity for some generic spirituality. Oh, I'm going to go sit on top of a rock and contemplate my navel, or, do just sort of hours and hours of meditation, or I'll become a Buddhist, or I'll go hike in the Himalayas, or I'll start following the works of the Dalai Lama. No, that's not what's going on here. What's really going on here is that people are turning against organized churches and organized religion. And I think this is really, well, it should be a wake-up call to the churches that they're doing a poor job. Now, there are some of the evangelical preachers who think, listen, the solution for me is to stay away from politics. I need to avoid politics altogether because, there are 10 guys in the pews who might take offense and might actually leave the church. What these guys don't realize is that the people in the pews are far more committed to their conservative politics than they are to you. So one way that you can actually keep them is relate Christian principles to the world that they live in. Show them how the moral principles of Christianity. Yes, the pro-life principle, but not only the pro-life principle. A lot of our politics today is driven by a basic conflict between right and wrong. It's a spiritual battle being fought on an earthly plane. And while the left has these huge megaphones, Hollywood and the media, and they use their megaphones, we have a megaphone. It's called the church, but it's often largely unused. So it seems to me, I'm urging that not just for the sake of the country, but for the sake of the church itself, that the church wake up and recognize that a healthy fusion of spiritual and moral principles on the one hand and an application to the world in which we live is going to help not empty, but fill up the pews.